Hello, everyone. My name is Carolyn Norton. I'm the Director of Cloud Engineering and Operations. Today, we're going to talk about how the Microsoft platform enables remote work or hybrid work. And I'm here today with our special guest, Eric Robertson.
Oh, hey, Carolyn. Glad to be here. Put a little context behind who I am and why I'm here. I'm Director of IT at Velosio. I helped get us into a primarily a remote workforce, enabling the tools and technologies so that our team could be successful while keeping all of our data for us and our customers secure. So happy to be here. Glad to talk about some of this cool stuff.
Yeah, I'm excited. Thank you for joining us. So let's start off with the basics. So how does the Microsoft platform support remote work, and what specific features or tools did you see in the stack that enabled this flexible work environment that we live in?
Great question. Great question. One I hear a lot. So, I mean, I think at this point everybody's heard of Teams. Teams is that foundation. There's also a lot of things that go into Teams, such as the file permissions and shares in the background that are tied to SharePoint Online. So, one of the big things, and one of the things that people get the most benefit out of, is moving away from that traditional sense of being locked behind a firewall and getting all their data more into a cloud environment where the responsibilities are shifting for the IT team, which I'm part of, and it's being moved so that it's a more fluid but still a protected sense for our employees and our customers to be able to get to that data and to collaborate on it. So a lot of gobbledygook I just said there, but to explain that a little bit deeper, what I'm trying to get to is Teams is great because it's that one interface that we have to work off of. And then in the background, there's all those great collaboration features. So, how do we work on a file together? How do we collaborate in real time? These are things that in the past, when you worked off of an on premise file server, we didn't have that luxury. So, now by having it in the cloud, we're able to all connect to the same file. We no longer need to worry about sending different versions of a file and, oh, did I update the right one, or where was that change in this one? Now we're working on a file all at the same time, seeing the real time changes, which is very impactful and something that I would say has driven productivity across teams a lot, and has decreased our storage costs because, from an email perspective, we're not sending those static files anymore. We're working off of that one file and we're protecting that file, and the versions that it has.
That's one of my biggest pet peeves, when someone attaches a file.
Oh, the worst.
One of my biggest pet peeves. I always tell everyone, share the link, share the link.
Share the link. We're going to take advantage of the benefits of having it in the cloud.
Yeah.
I love seeing when somebody else is on the same file and you could follow along exactly where they're editing and be like, oh, they just put that there, so let me put the picture to go along with that cool verbiage they just added.
Or you can see where the last edits are when you come back in. You see so-and-so made these modifications. And you can jump right to that spot.
Perfect. No longer do you have to worry about approving the changes and editing. You guys are working on the same document at the same time, which is awesome. The other great feature is Teams telephony. Having moved away from an on-premise or more of a legacy traditional phone system and having it integrated into the same platform where you're able to IM your coworkers or customers, and now you can call them from the same interface or video call them, and that goes along with meetings and having all those great tools in one nice, easy package thing. No matter where I am, if I log into Teams, I can do that. I don't need to have a hard phone in order to call somebody anymore. I have my work number. I can make that call. If somebody's trying to call me while I'm either not at my desk, I'll still get that call because I have that nice flexibility with the remote capabilities of Teams.
My favorite thing is I don't have to give my personal number out anymore. As long as you have the app on your phone, you're going to get those phone calls and those chats.
Love it.
That's nice.
So Carolyn, I know you deal with our customer base a lot. So what are some of the things that you see them leveraging in this regards to remote collaboration?
There's a lot of different scenarios, but the most common area is how do they ensure that their teams are leveraging the tools that are built into the stack, right? Are they really using it to its full potential, or are they just scratching the surface? So what we tend to do is we'll have conversations with them and understand what are the challenges, what are they perceiving to be roadblocks, and then from there we start to assess, all right, well, your team is already familiar with these tools, or there's a particular tool set that you really aren't leveraging, or we can tweak. And that opens up an opportunity to really encourage both collaboration and adoption, because the two are kind of, they go hand in hand, right? In order for an organization to better work together when they're remote, they need to understand how to use the tool and what options they have out there. And then from there, they're more able to collaborate. Because you'll find with end users, if you make their job easier and give them the tools that they need, and they immediately perceive benefits, they immediately start jumping on it and thinking of, what else can I do with this? How much more can I leverage to make my workday easier? And then conversely, the collaboration just happens naturally. So that's
Power that end user.
Yes, yes, yes. Empowering the end user. So the more you go through roadblocks, the more you find that they're collaborating better. It could be as simple as, hey, we're having meeting fatigue. We're constantly meeting. Teams is great, but I don't want to have another meeting. I don't want to be on another call. So there have been scenarios where we've had conversations with clients where we've tweaked, how do we leverage the meetings in a more efficient way, a more positive experience where you're still getting that collaboration with your team, but it's not feeling so routine and mundane and somewhat, I don't want to say useless, but unimpactful. So even those tiny behavioral switches or process switches in the tool itself can really help an organization out.
Yeah, that's great. And I think what you were talking about just brings more to light why the Microsoft platform is so great, because you can see and identify some of these weak points with the reporting capabilities that are in the back end.
Yeah.
So when you see that something, people aren't using a certain feature, there's reports that says, hey, this is barely used, and you're able to see, why is this not being used? How do I get my team to leverage this better?
Exactly.
And there's partners like Velosio out there that can help you identify what are those areas that we can improve on. So great.
Absolutely. I know, obviously I run a team too. So I'm thinking about what I go through with my team. I have to imagine other organizations go through. So it's nice, what you've done with the organization. We're using the tool set internally so we can learn from our experience, and then our interactions with our clients help further that conversation, right? Because every client has their different requirements, expectations, whatever, roadblocks, and we can take what we've learned ourselves and what we're experiencing and helping our clients, so we can really understand, what all is possible. And then of course, Microsoft is constantly changing these tools.
Oh, just a little bit.
So there's always so much more like we can figure out and leverage. So it's agile enough so that there are solutions in there, and again, ultimately, it's going to help resolve the collaboration aspect that we're trying to encourage when remote work, right? How do we bring that I'm in the office feel into a remote environment? That's essentially what we're trying to address.
Yeah, and I think Teams. I know we already talked about Teams, but to bring it back to Teams a little bit, I think Teams really does that, and it can bring together teams that are. I'm saying teams a lot, but bringing the teams back together within a team using Teams, lots of teams. We're able to see how powerful. Team. Yeah, but we're able to take that tool and literally bring together these users who might not be physically together, but give them what they need so that they're able to collaborate as if they're in the same room.
Yes.
Some of those features like whiteboard, like no longer do you need to be in the same room to have that whiteboarding session. I can open up a whiteboard session in my Teams meeting and just start writing, and people can start writing, and then we could kind of build off like, okay, we're going to architect it like this, and somebody comes in and puts it in another piece, and we're able to like have that real time back and forth, but not be in the same room. And it feels like we are, because we can see each other, we're working off the same piece. It's a great, powerful feeling to know that you can still have those connections with people while being thousands of miles away.
Yes. I mean, that's essentially what we're trying to do, is establish a level of presence And nothing's ever going to really be in person if you have to have a meeting and that physical aspect of being there. But when we're talking about day-to-day usual operations, we have to come up with something that tries to, I don't want to say mimic, but encourages that similar experience. And this is where Microsoft has really focused in their time, right? How do we make sure that the teams are on their own collaborating? So as a director, and I'm sure you have the same experience, you want to make sure that your team is actually collaborating, right? Are they conversing, are they siloed out, or are they having these meaningful conversations that they would normally have in the office, where they can walk over to someone and say, hey, I have something that I need to run by you, can we chat? Making sure that they're having those kind of conversations, and then also cross departmental as well, right? So making sure that within the organization that line of communication is still as fluid as possible when we're working remote.
Totally. And before we get off the Teams topic, I just have one of my favorite things that I do, and something we've done at Velosio is inside of Teams, each of the departments or practices will have their own team, and that's their kind of group and department collaboration space. And one of the things that the nicest that you could do with it is across the top is you can put all those nice little tabs and kind of identify, here's all the places that you need to work off of in order to do your job. It's no longer as a user getting the laundry list of links saying, okay, you're going to click here to do this, click here to go do that. Oh, you need to do time entry? That's a different portal. You can kind of outline it and structure it in a way so that your team is empowered even from day one. Here's all the different places that they need to get to. They don't have to hunt and peck. They're right in an interface. They have a group chat message, so if they need help from a team member, they just put it in there. They can add the person to call them out. Very powerful, especially when you're coming into a new organization where there's a lot of stuff, and that people keep saying, drinking from a fire hose. Truly, when you go into an organization with all these in place procedures and processes, to have like, okay, I come here, I have a nice way of seeing all that stuff that I'm used to, that I need to work off to be successful. It just makes their lives easier, and it'll let them to be more productive faster.
100% agree. It's part of the onboarding process for my team. We'll have a specific time for that person that's coming on board. Here's how Teams is laid out. Here's where all of our information is. Here's where you can find the processes. Here's how you interact with the team. And just, again, the presence aspect, right? How do you take what used to happen in person in an office, and how do we try to recreate that experience inside of a remote scenario, right? Taking the time to really dig into those little things that we kind of take for granted, or for, we had immediately when we were in person. How do we try to make that happen in a remote scenario so that people still feel connected, they're all working towards the same goals, they're working on their projects or tasks, what have you. You as management have insights of what's going on, and everyone's essentially working like a team. Teams. Your favorite team.
Teams. So I guess this is our transition to one of my favorite topics. We're gonna move over to security and how Microsoft's ecosystem brings all those cool technologies together while keeping our users and all that data secure at the same time.
So how does Microsoft do it? How does Microsoft make sure that these tools that are meant to, let them talk and say whatever they want and do whatever they want, how does Microsoft make sure that they can do whatever they want within the bounds of security, so that we're not preventing work from happening?
Well, this is one of my favorite topics. There's a lot of tools, and one of the greatest reasons of going to the Microsoft platform is because the security and privacy features are integrated so tightly into everything we just talked about already. So all those tools have all these other security and privacy features around them. Not going to go into all of them, but just to name a couple that are some of my favorites or quick wins for people to start taking advantage, or reasons why they should move over. Email message encryption, I think, is super important. People sometimes forget, like, hey, if I just send an email, like they're sending, I see too many times where people are sending data, and I'm like, oh, you shouldn't be sending that as just a plain, a regular email that's not protected in any way. Because if somebody catches it in the middle, that email is now able to be read. So one of my favorite things is email message encryption, and the way you can enable that to make it less user intensive is even just identifying the contents in the message so that it automatically encrypts on its way out. And that's my nice little segue to data loss prevention. So data loss prevention policies are awesome because not only can you start applying sensitivity labels to the data that's inside of your ecosystem or platform and saying, okay, here's my super confidential stuff, here's my IP stuff, these are the things I really can't let leave my systems. And then there's the less impactful stuff that, hey, if somebody shares this, it's not that big of a deal, or these are the contents that we do want to share with our customers or partners. And being able to apply those sensitivity labels so that when a message, an email, an IM or something goes out, it's like, okay, this has been flagged with a sensitivity label, so it can only be viewed on a company issued device, which is one of those big things. Now that we have employees everywhere, we're no longer behind that firewall in that castle. We are dispersed. We are everywhere. We are using devices that are sometimes your own personal ones or sometimes company issued. So how do we still protect all that data? And I
What
think
do you
Microsoft.
think? My personal device is not secure?
Oh, I hope so. But not everybody's always the greatest at patching. So, you know. But this is where that data law, those DLP policies really are impactful, because they can really start to flag emails that are going out that shouldn't have it. So you can identify common sensitivity type messages, such as if somebody put a credit card number, you're like, hey, why is this email going out with a credit card? You can either warn them, block them before it actually goes out. Why is there a social security number? We don't want to be sending social security numbers through plain text emails. Like, stop immediately. So these are some of those things that, as your workforce is now not centralized in one place behind one single firewall, how do you protect all that? And this is where these policies that are baked into all the tools are able to be greatly leveraged, so that you're protecting your users, your company, your customers, your partners, everybody in between.
We're talking about data going out, but how does the security protect the data that's within the ecosystem too?
Phrase that again.
You talked about data exfiltration and not going outbound with the DLP and encryption. How does the collaboration, the conversations that are happening inside of the Microsoft tool set also stay protected? Meaning it's out there somewhere. How as an organization do we know that data is protected out there?
Well, that's the great part about all these things that we're talking about. Microsoft's protection platform, they call it Purview. You're able to start locking down these types of documents and files and knowing that, hey, this is part of my data, and having that protection allows for those controls like we talked about, where if they tried to send it somewhere else or send it to somebody who shouldn't have rights to see it, we're able to say, hey, this sensitivity label isn't meant for this group of users. This is meant to stay within these people. How did they get access to it? So not only do we have alerts that somebody might have gone to a wrong place, or somebody might have shared something that they shouldn't have done, it could be automatically blocked and alerted to the security team to make sure they take action on those types of incidents. So Carolyn, I talked about some of my favorite tools or easy wins. What are some of the tools that you love to point out to our customers?
Right now, organizations lately have been really trying to understand how they can wrap their arms around the workforce and the devices that's touching their data. So we've had a couple of conversations where organizations are really trying to understand, what devices are accessing the data? Are they compliant? What data are they accessing? Where are they accessing it from? And giving an organization a sense of understanding who's touching the data beyond just the account, the devices as well. So as it relates to security, you want to understand that, because there's data out there that's important to the organization. It could be very simple or not critical data, or it could be very critical data that's being accessed from a device that's not secure, or from an area or location that's not typically access that can cause red flags, and organizations are concerned about that. So we spend a lot of time making sure that organizations are starting to align themselves in that wider view of the landscape, so that they can start taking that information and making good decisions, policies, procedures. Again, we're not trying to prevent people from using their personal devices or going on vacation and still wanting to work. We just want to give the organization a better way to assess what's going on so that they can make really good decisions. So that's really been popular as of late.
Perfect. Yeah. I mean, Defender for Endpoint is super powerful. And the fact that it integrates, again, another tool, another control, one less platform to go to because it's all one,
That's
which
right.
is one of the reasons why we love it. Microsoft's new saying, do more with less. Having less vendors is easier to maintain and manage. And having all these tools in one place is very nice. And they start to talk to each other, and you start to get some more signals that are like, hey, this doesn't make, why are we seeing this? And this device is over,
Yeah,
whoa, where is that? And we're able to kind of connect these dots and identify things quicker and
exactly.
faster in order to remediate.
Exactly. And taking it a step further, right? In a work from home, there might be a scenario where you're allowed to bring your own device, right? But there might be a different set of rules for company issued devices versus BYOD. So then again, this allows organizations to give employees that freedom of being remote, of being a road warrior, or working from home, whatever the situation is, using whatever it is that they feel helps them best do their job, but protect the organization at the same time. Because security is really about protecting the data, protecting the operations, and even protecting the end users, right? So that's very popular now too, where those devices can have a certain special set of, yes, you can do this, but versus your
It's one of
company
my
issued device.
favorites. It's one of my favorites. I think one of my favorites, just to chime in here, is
Yeah,
blocking people from downloading document
that's
libraries
where I was
to a
going. Yes.
personal device. So that's a big one. So moving away from the traditional, hey, we have an on-prem file server, to now, hey, we have a cloud storage in SharePoint, OneDrive, all that good stuff, and saying, hey, okay, you want to use your personal device, fine, you could use it, but you're going to be working from a cloud standpoint rather than somebody who's using a company device where they've gone through a bunch of other checks and we're maintaining their viruses and all these other attack surface reduction rules, and we're saying you can't download this document library onto that personal device, which is huge. And the fact that it's a very simple thing to enable is pretty powerful.
Absolutely. So again, you're empowering them to do what they need to do, but you're also keeping in mind the protection of the overall org. So
It's the balance.
it's a win-win. Yes, it's a
It's the
balance.
balance. It's the
Yes,
balance.
absolutely. All within this in the work from home guise of the stack, for sure. So, from a management perspective, how does the Microsoft tool set help manage these remote teams? Right? We talked about how we can help them collaborate. We talked about how we can protect the organization, but how do we leverage it to manage our teams?
Another great question. I'm just going to keep telling you have great questions. Oh. So some of my favorite tools, Microsoft Planner and Microsoft To Do, two tools that come with most Microsoft licensing, super powerful things that allow for either small teams, larger teams, track, hey, here's the tasks that we need to get done. Let each person know what they're assigned. Let them maintain the list of things that they may have skipped or not gone back to, and say, hey, what are my responsibilities currently? What do I need to go back to resolve? And you can easily see, like, here's the open items for user A, user B, and they have this nice view of maintaining all those flagged emails that they had. I mean, I personally, Microsoft To Do is one of my favorite tools, not spoken enough, and I think more people should use it.
I agree 100%. I talk to the team all the time. There's a million emails that fly through, and email is still our principal form of communication, regardless of having chats and meetings. Email is still kind of the default go-to.
Yeah.
So how do people keep track of everyone asking? And in our scenario, we're trying to answer internal folks and external folks. So there's possibly double the amount of communication out there? How do you keep track? And I agree with you. The to-do is really great, especially if you flag it, you know you have something you have to do and you can take action beyond that. Planner is very popular for me as well. I can see what has been assigned both to my team as a group, but also individually. So I can keep track of what assignments, tasks, or items I need them to complete, and they can go in and make those updates. So I can periodically check in and see, how are we progressing? Are we marching forward? Are there any roadblocks that I'm seeing from the progress? Is there anything that we need to do to either help make it faster, slower, or keep on track? But it's a really good insight. I actually like OneNote a lot as well. And that's something that I know a lot of people leverage. It's one of my favorite things. I keep a ton of notes, conversations with clients, conversations with the team, conversations with leaders. All that information I have captured, organized. And again, the nice part about this whole tool set is that you can access them from varying locations. So the app or the web version or Teams, whatever you like best. I have preferences. As long as I can get to my data fast and quick when someone asks me a question, or I need to glance at what we discussed, or what my planned day looks like, I have something right in front of me that I can use to understand where my team's at and what things I have to do. So I'm happy to have these tools because it makes my day more efficient.
I'm gonna get you a little bit more excited because it's in GA right now, but Loop is going to supercharge what you just discussed there.
Yes.
Loop is literally OneDrive on the next level, OneNote on that next level. It is going to make that
I'm excited.
real-time collaboration really, really cool.
I'm excited.
We won't get into it now, but Loop is pretty much OneNote on another level.
Yeah, I'm excited about that. And then for things that I personally have to do, I have to review SOWs, I have to review various documents, PowerPoints. And again, my biggest pet peeve is when they attach it to the email. So when I'm looking at the things that I'm responsible for, or I'm reviewing someone else's work, I can go in real time, add my comments, make some adjustments, and right from the document. I don't have to have a separate conversation, right? And the item that I'm working on, and I can say, hey, so-and-so, this is great. Here are some minor edits, or hey, let's remember to discuss this. It's all inside the tools, and it can, again, encourage that collaboration versus, again, having to drop what I'm doing, pick up the phone, have this conversation, look at two separate versions of the document. Do you have the right version? I have this version. Again, biggest pet peeve of mine is when you attach it, because the point of all this is to try to make it so that you guys can work on it at the same time and still not kind of lose a sense of what you were trying to do. So someone could be working on one part, you're working on another. It's all captured in the same file. And there's version tracking too. So if for some reason it doesn't go the way you want, you can always revert back. So
love version tracking. Tracking.
All good stuff. And managing is part of making sure that these things are progressing, they're done appropriately, and again, the team is able to get the jobs done that we're asking them to do, and then we're able to effectively communicate as leaders.
And I think from all of our meetings where we either have one-on-ones or syncs or however you team meetings, I think using those tools like To Do and Planner and it facilitates those meetings and makes it easier to go through. Like, hey, let's see where you are with things. We're working off the same list. No longer do they have their list versus my list, and are they aligned? And hey, I don't know which one's the higher priority. So you can kind of real-time adjust and be like, here's the highest priority. So everybody's on the same page, and those expectations are managed in real time. No longer do you have to wait for that sync.
Expectations, for sure. Because if I'm just sending, and To Do is great, but if I were to send my team 5 different emails and not clearly, I can imagine that could be frustrating. Versus, to your point, have a list. Here's the expectations. Here's the priority. Again, it's all in one spot where everyone can get to it. safe and secure, right? So those that don't need to have access to it don't have access to it, and your teams and or your workers, your workforce are able to do that what they need to do. So good collaboration.
Easy to do
Collaboration
business with.
and expectations. I love those two words. Thank you for joining us. This topic is ever evolving. We are in a remote scenario. We have a lot of hybrid workers today, and as that continues to ebb and flow, we feel as though these tools are going to set up organizations for a level of success. Microsoft focuses on it a lot because there's a lot that their tools can do to assist in the remote workspace. And so I hope you had an opportunity to enjoy this video, and the information that we were able to share was helpful for you as an organization, either adopting these tools for the first time or thinking about how can an organization continue to be more efficient and adopt the tool sets that are presented today or forthcoming. So thank you again for spending our time. If you would like to spend more time talking about how these tools can help you as an organization, please reach out to Velosio. We're here to help. We've gone through it ourselves. We've helped other organizations transition and really leverage and unlock the power that is these tools. And we're happy to help you do the same.